We'd like to call the order of the Pleasant Grove City Council this evening on this Tuesday, February the 6th, 2024, and welcome everyone who is here. We have all of our council members, and we have a lot of our directors and staff that have joined us here tonight, and also we're grateful for our public who has joined us this evening here. So we'll start our evening by having a Pledge of Allegiance, and will be led by Chief Brown, and after which opening remarks will be given by Councilmember Lamone. Chief.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the opportunity we have to come together as council members, staff, and the community to be able to discuss and make decisions on behalf of our residents at this time. We thank Thee for the opportunity to serve, and we ask that we can be good examples to each other and be able to have an open mind and open heart as we talk and discuss about what would be in the best interest of our citizens. Please bless that we can have a safe week, and that our staff and all that they do will be able to be safe and respected by those in our community, and that people will be able to recognize the hard work that goes into running our city, and that we can be able to best serve the needs of those who want to have a better quality of life here. We love Thee and we say these things in the name of my Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, Keldon and Sid. We'll now move to item number 4, approval of tonight's meeting agenda. Is there anything that we need to?
Yeah, no changes, Mayor.
No changes, so ask for a motion on our approval of our meeting agenda.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve our tonight's agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to our open session. And I would like to, we have 3 public hearings this evening. So if what you want to talk to us about refers to one of those public hearings, we ask that you speak at the public hearing and not at the open session. So we'll now open our open session and invite anybody to come forward and address the council.
The microphone's on this side. You can come on this side. Oh, that works.
And would you please give us your names?
I'm Kaylee Evans. And I'm Eva Evans. So we're so excited to be here with you today. We would like to discuss with you a concern that we've found in the community. No, sorry, move over a little. Our concern is near Pleasant Grove Junior High. It's the intersection between the junior high and 300 East, as you can see here. It just gets really congested and becomes a mess when half the school is trying to arrive. As we tried to take into consideration and study about this intersection a little bit, we stood at this corner, the end of the crosswalk, and counted the number of cars and students that interacted with this intersection. We found, as you see here, that about 200 students use this intersection and about 310 cars. The time that we studied this was about 30 minutes before school and 30 minutes after school. So our numbers might not be perfect because we did have to make it to school ourselves. Of those 200 students that we saw cross the crosswalk, we saw 5 of them almost get hit by cars. One of them we caught here on camera. You can see the kid. And just so you know a little bit about the numbers exactly, I think it's almost 30% of our school when you include the cars and the students that uses this intersection. So it is a very big access to the school.
So our goal is to get the traffic, like an easier traffic, and to get the safety of our students a bit easier. So some ideas that we had to improve this is to put stop signs in, but we do realize that that's not the best or easiest idea. So we would love any ideas or suggestions. Or another idea we had is to make it a right-hand turn out of the school only. Is there any questions for us?
So right now you can come out of the school and turn left or right. Okay.
The left gets the most congested
Yeah.
because,
The left does?
Yeah.
And there's no crossing guard.
there is
On that
one
corner.
flag there currently, which is lovely, but
Has there been a crossing guard in the past? I thought there was. No?
No.
I'm not aware. There hasn't been since I've been at the school.
Okay.
There's a crosswalk, but there's no crossing kind of.
No crossing guard.
Crossing guard.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I'm oriented here, right? Where you have PG Junior High and you have this street, is that the parking lot essentially leading down into the junior high?
No, it's the
The
east
backside,
side.
yeah.
It's the back side. It's the east side of the junior high.
Right, but that is the street that goes by the seminary building and then goes down into the top side of the junior high, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough spot because I've had to drive that multiple times, so I know what you're talking about. And I don't like it. I don't like it how it is, so.
And what's your timeline on your,
This is the poster board that we used for part of this project. We used for one of our extracurricular activities at the junior high. So this poster board, some of the things over here, the timeline and the planning process sheet were used for that. The timeline is just showing when we decided to work with this and how long it took us at each step of the process.
open that up a little bit? We can't see this.
Can we just get a picture of it?
Mayor, would, no, go ahead.
I just want to make a suggestion, recommendation moving forward. I mean, we appreciate what these girls have done. I think it'd be appropriate to send this to Public Works and have them do the analysis. Whenever we do crossing guards or lights or any of these things, we do need to do an analysis to make sure it's warranted for that. They've given us a nice baseline to kind of work off of by counting the vehicles and helping us with that. But if, I would recommend that as our path forward is to involve our
Okay.
Public Works.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you girls consult at all with, did you were able to find like, because there's supposed to be a safe pathway from the junior high. Did you get a chance to talk to Alpine School District at all about it?
No.
Because I think that's one thing, Scott, that we talked
Yeah.
about.
So each school's required to have a safe path to school route for kids to get to the schools. And so, I don't know what the junior highs is. That will be part of our analysis, is taking a look at what the junior high is telling students. You're supposed to go this way in order to get to the junior.
Yeah, one of the problems is I think it's either they kick them down to 1,100 or 500 somewhere. That's like way,
Well,
yeah.
we haven't, I haven't seen it. I don't think we've seen it, so.
But Scott, you can connect them with Neil, so they have a specific person that they can work with on this?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I want. Neil?
An elementary school just down this road as well.
Yeah, when I was kind of canvassing and out with my campaign, I want you to know that I drove all these roads. And I drove them to look for sidewalks and where cars were parked and how difficult it was to get to that school, because it's hard when you're riding a bike because there's no real path down there as well. So I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and I think that we'll get some people on this to look at it. But this is a difficult issue, and we really need to focus on it with how busy our schools have gotten right there, especially how big Grove Crest is now, and then also the Pleasant Grove Junior High School. So good job, girls. This was well presented.
Yeah, you're both, what grades are you in?
I'm in 9th grade.
I'm in 7th grade.
In 7th grade, so you'll be going to the high school next year? Okay. This is how you make change happen. You came with a problem and you also presented solutions. You just weren't coming to complain about something. You actually saw a valid concern and then you came with some solutions. This is how it starts, and I think it's awesome that you took the time to do this. A lot of kids your age would not take the time to do this. So I think this is awesome, and thank you for bringing this forth, because this is a safety issue that could affect people's lives. So thank you so much.
When we keep this,
Okay.
this will be, are you all right, or do you
need it back by March.
Yes. Okay.
We'll make sure we
Or-
get it back to you by
Or Scott,
March.
could you take a picture of it?
Well, I think we're gonna be okay.
Okay.
So, if we end up with it, I promise you won't get it back.
And Kaylee and Eva, if you guys should follow up with us because we're going to be working on it. They'll get you Neil's number and you follow up with him because he'll give you updates as we look at this,
And
okay?
then come back and report
Then
back.
come back
yeah, I
and
like
tell us
that.
how we're doing.
But Neil, could you step outside? He'll step outside with you out in the lobby just for a minute and kind of talk about what the next steps are, so,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Kaylee, I like your new scooter.
Yeah, it's awesome. So good.
Anyone else like to come forward?
My name's Lon Lewis. I'd just like to make a comment regarding these young ladies' presentation. I know we've tried to work with the Safe Routes on a couple of projects, and I know one for sure has been halted for some reason, and I can't find out why. And the second one was completed this last summer, but with a lot of difficulty on the city's part to try to get the safe route. The schools identify the process, the routing, go to the city for help, and probably because of funding, things don't happen. And I know there's several areas around most of the schools that are unsafe that need attention. And the city relies on state funding, Safe Route to Schools funding by the state, but I don't know that it's necessarily the state's problem to create the safe route. And I think the principals are limited in their routes to get the kids to school. So I think the city really needs to put some attention to a safe route to the schools and make it and participate such that it's viable, it's doable, and it makes sense that it works. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Well, I'll just mention that one entity,
Excuse me.
Oh.
We don't.
we don't say anything.
No.
Unless it's little girls.
Yeah, please. We left a little latitude for those 2 years. Anyone else?
Hi, this is in reference to the referendum on the budget, where the $600,000 was moved out of the roads fund, the Class C roads fund. I just wrote some information on here. I gave it to you guys. Hopefully you'd read it. But if not, I can just kind of go through it. There was 2 arguments that Tina gave for disregarding the referendum. And so I was just going to go over both of those. She said that it was an administrative act instead of a legislative act, or that it was a resolution instead of an ordinance, and resolutions are administrative. I showed some evidence to show that other cities use resolutions or they use ordinances to pass their budgets. Also, the legislature of the state of Utah passes their budgets as well. In Carter v. Lehigh, which is the 2012 Supreme Court case here in Utah, they created a new framework to decide whether something is referable. And there was a few things I wanted to point out. In paragraph 20, it says the power of the people is equal to the state legislature. So therefore, the state legislature has the right to, if the state legislature has the right to do it, then citizens have the right to do it. Paragraph 35, legislative power generally involves the promulgation of laws or general applicability, is based on the weighing of broad competing policies considerations. The budget fits that criteria. Therefore, if an act is reserved by the legislature, which is budgeting, it's also reserved by the people. Number 44, paragraphs 44 and 40 and 53 of Carter v. Lehigh says the nature of the legislative power can be further elaborated by examining historical invocations of this power. So at the federal and the state level, the budget is created by the legislative branch, and then the budget is executed by the executive branch. So this would mean that as a legislative body, you create the budget. You also have the executive power too, so you can also execute that budget. But our legislature creates budgets all the time. They're creating one right now, and they'll be passing a budget bill that will be sent off to the mayor, or sorry, the governor, to be signed. Also, right after the Carter v. Lehigh in 2012, a Senate Bill 2240 from 2012, says this bill repeals provisions of the Utah Code that have been found unconstitutional related to a prohibition on legal voters of any city, county, or town initiating a budget change, or land use ordinance, or requiring a budget or land use ordinance adopted by a local legislative body to the voters. It'd be nice to have a discussion with you right now, sort of like you had with the young women. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now.
Thank you.
Are
Thank
there
you.
any questions?
No, we don't have any questions for you right now. Thank you.
Steve Rogers, did you have any questions?
I'll address them later.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else like come forward and address the council? See no one coming forward, we'll now close our open session. I'm going to back up here to the front, and we'll move to item number 6. Our consent items for this evening consist of A, to consider approval of contract change order number 1 for Instafoam Technologies LLC for the fiscal year 2022-23 sewer rehabilitation project. B, to consider for approval payment request number 3 for Instafoam Technologies LLC for fiscal year 22-23 sewer rehabilitation project. C, to consider for approval payment request number 1 for the Rivendell Tree Experts LLC for the 2024 pavement preservation tree trimming project. And D, to consider for approval in change order number 1 for the J. Lynn Robertson Sons Incorporated on the chlorination system installation at the Atwood Well, the Gibson Well, Anderson Well, and Adamson Well project. And E, to consider for approval payment request number 2 for the J. Lynn Robertson Sons and on the chlorination systems installation at the Atwood Well, Gibson Well, Anderson Well, and an Adams Well project. And F, consider for approval partial payment number 3 to the Big D Construction for the Cook Family Park project. And G, to consider for approval payment reports for the January 25th, 2024 and January 30th, 24. Ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We do not have any board, commission, committee appointments this evening or presentations. So we'll move right into our public hearing items for this evening, which are 9A, a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2024-2 regarding the Transportation Master Plan update with an appendix including the 600 West Center Street study. We'll turn it over to our Public Works Director.
What wasn't included in that resolution is that the master plan document, I think, is 457 pages long. The master plan that is before you, what is going on there? Okay, is actually an update. So about 2 years ago, the city engaged with Horrocks with the main objective to update the volumes that were in the existing master plan. So it's not a full transportation master plan review. We took the existing data that was in the master plan, we updated it with MAG's new numbers, and there were two main objectives out of that, and that were to update what was the recommendation on 600 West and Center Street, which we brought before you a few months ago, and we've applied to MAG for funding on that. So that's an appendix in the updated master plan. And then to produce what is commonly known as a storybook that we'd like to publish on our website to give access to the summary of that 460-page document. Shane is here with Horrocks, and I'm going to turn the time over to him to review that storybook and some of the things and the features that are associated with that. One thing that's notable and probably good is that Pleasant Grove is on the edge of the mountains, and we don't have another city on the other side of us, and we're about 90% built out. So we're not building large, wide corridors up through our town. We have a few connections to make. We have to plan for the future. The funds that we use for our roads are the same funds that we would use to widen roads. So we're probably not going to recommend widening roads. We're going to have a few intersections here and there. We're going to do some maybe improvements around the little school area, maybe something like that. But we're not going to come through and recommend probably $10 million of widening First East. I just don't see us doing that in the near future. But I'll turn the time over to Shane and let him walk through what we call the storybook, and then we'll let the council and have the hearing take place.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm Shane. I'm with Horrocks, and this is just going to go over this. You know, like Neil said, this is more of like a guideline and overview of what's in the master plan. So as you scroll down, it kind of goes through what the TMP is. It's kind of a guideline to help you guys budget and budget in the, you know, and for the development throughout the city of roads or wherever it needs help when. And so this is kind of this goes over, if you guys want to read, there's a nice little link here that you can click on if you want some nice reading at night, put you right to sleep. But here it kind of goes through over what's included in the storybook. The roadway standards, the standard classifications, typical cross sections you guys have adopted into your city, and then it also goes over the level of service. That's kind of what we use to justify if a roadway is performing at adequate or acceptable levels. And so as we go down here, this tells you what different kinds of roads are you guys have throughout your city, if it's a collector, arterial, or a road, and kind of how they connect to each other and what they function as. So you go down here, and this is kind of the typical components of a cross section of a roadway. Some of your roads have them, some don't. They're not mandatory. They're just options that you guys can have for your cross sections of your roadways. And here's some of your typical roadways that you have throughout the city. And there's a nice little, you guys want to hit the button, it just kind of goes over and goes through the different kinds of roadways and cross sections in Pleasant Grove. And this kind of here shows you what the level of service means. It depends on the congestion level. Like A is like free flow. You guys, you won't have to hit your brakes as you're going down the road. And then it slowly goes down. It depends on how many cars are on the roadway and the size of the road. And with Pleasant Grove, right here between D and E is where it fails. D is still acceptable. It's getting on the verge of not being acceptable. But E is where it's like too much delay on the road. And these are kind of the standards that how many daily ADT on the road for an arterial or collector, depending on the classification of the road. So right here, it's kind of nice. You go through here. Let me pull this over here. So this shows all your stop signs throughout the city, and also the classifications of your roads. If they're arterial, the red, yellow, you know, a 3-lane arterial, and as it goes through. And then if you grab this little slider here and pull it across, it shows you what the level of service on those roads are. And as you see, most of your roads throughout the city are performing an acceptable level of service, except for 100 East right here, and then a little bit of Pleasant Grove Boulevard. But I know UDOT's working on that right now. So as we go down, this kind of tells you, acceptable level of service is green and orange, and then unacceptable is red. So when we do traffic plans, there's 2 years, horizon years we usually use, 10 years and a 2050 model. The 10-year is a little more accurate because the data is more reliable. Once you get out 20 years, we never know what's going to happen. Vineyard Connector could not come in, or else there's a new temple that's going to be built that we didn't know about. So we couldn't include that in our analysis. So that's why we do 2 different scenarios when we do a master plan. And here's the no build. So if any of the projects that are on this master plan are not completed by 2030 in the next 10 years, these are roads that are going to be failing. You see still 100 East and then Pleasant Grove Boulevard as it comes through here. And then in the 50 years, it jumps up as all of 100 East, all of Pleasant Grove Boulevard up to this State Street, and a few of them down here by doTERRA. So here's the proposed projects that we have. The green and the orange are the next 10 years. The green is 1 to 5, showing that the intersection at 600 West is one of the projects that are on there. And then the orange is 5 to 10, and then the purple is 10 to 20 years out. And these are just recommendations after having conversations with Neil and the city. And then after, if all the projects are built by 2050, these show the new intersection types and the new road classifications. So, and here's just a list of the projects that are on that list, kind of a little bit more of more detail, and shows you if it's a capacity improvement or if it's a new road that's going to come in or an intersection improvement. Also included in a master plan is also active transportation. And I know you guys have just updated or adopted a bicycle and pedestrian plan, which can be accessed through this link here once this story map has been activated. And it goes through and talks about transit, multimodal transportation is also in here. Well, that's mainly in the transportation master plan if you guys want to read, but this kind of gives you a summary of the lines and the routes that are within your city. And the other elements, these are just options that you guys can have for slowing down traffic. If it's a roundabout, crosswalk extensions, medians, also bulb outs, kind of shrink the roadway so that cars will feel like they need to slow down instead of speed down your roads. And that's just left in there in case you guys have issues with speeding. And then at the end of the map, it shows an interactive map that you can go through and turn on whatever layer you want. So if you want the existing level of service, it'll come on and you can turn this off. If you want to know what street projects that are going on or where they're at, you just turn it on, turn it off. So it's more interactive so you guys can kind of have a little more detailed view of where the project's at. And do you guys have any questions for me that I can answer? Or?
Council?
No, I was able to get on, over the weekend, and then it's pretty in-depth and pretty intensive, so thanks for your help.
You're welcome.
430 pages?
457 pages, I think is what it is.
Yeah.
Not only made it through 430.
Again, there's a lot of data there.
A lot of data.
That goes into the calculations, if you will, of how to produce the results that you have. And again, the guiding document of the master plan says this is where you are and this is where we think you will be, and these are the projects needed. Now, some of these projects will be developer driven. Most of the new roads are developer driven. I can't off the top of my head think where we're going to instigate and issue a let's go connect this road unless it's developer driven. And again, you saw the capacity maps While those, that's the greenest map you'll find in probably Utah County. You have a little red with peak and build-out conditions. That's a reality that we all face. But again, if we have corridor preservation needs, we can use the master plan to guide us through that. And if we have development that's occurring on a given corner or things of that nature, we can help guide that where we might need to put a signal or get right of way for a roundabout or something along those lines. So,
Do you want to address the 600 West Center Street project that this kind of adds to it?
yeah, so we brought forth, 10 different options several months ago. We whittled that down to 4, then we whittled that down to the one that we would take to MAG. We have applied to MAG for that project to basically move that intersection to the east as far as possible. Anytime you can move intersections away from major intersections, it's a capacity adder and an operation improvement project. If you'll drive down frontage roads along Utah County, you'll see old frontage roads adjacent to I-15 that now move out and about further away from that. And that's essentially what we're recommending. And it's an expensive project. It's something that is difficult, and I don't know that we can bear that cost. So we've applied to MAG, who has taken initial rankings, and we were about in the middle. And so we're finishing up those application needs and taking it further. We've talked to the railroad and UTA, letters of support from UDOT, because really what'll happen if that intersection stays the way it is it will cause problems on State Street. So that's the way I've been pitching it, is our 600 West project is truly a State Street and Pleasant Grove Boulevard project with those through movements coming off of Pleasant Grove Boulevard and those left turns coming off of State Street, and then having to hurry and get over into that one lane to turn left. It really could cause some congestion there. So
as I remember right, when we talked about this previously, it was high T2 and then turbo roundabout.
yeah,
Was that right?
we let go of the roundabout
The turbo roundabout, okay.
because we were afraid that it would get caught up in the concern of the railroad. So that roundabout you saw, it had several different railroad crossings with not only cars, but pedestrians. And so when you enter that many different
I can see that, yeah.
conflicts, it didn't look as attractive. Now, I flashed that on the screen to MAG, and they said, yeah, we're glad you didn't submit that, just because MAG wants projects that they feel can be built right away, designed really nicely, and go through the approval process. That roundabout, I think, would be awesome. I think it would move cars, but there's a small chance that either the railroad or even UDOT might have had concerns with it in the final design phases. And so the scoring of the transportation efficiency was so close to the high T and the roundabout that we just felt the roundabout was, I actually just said it was maybe too sexy for transportation engineers.
So you're opting and recommending the high T2 plan?
The furthest east.
Furthest east plan?
Moving that east, yeah.
Yeah, across, but then putting
A signal intersection,
a
high
signal
T.
intersection there?
Yeah.
Okay, with you've got a circle there on the west of that, right?
Well, that would be blocked off to the west where the
Yeah.
current is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh, a cul-de-sac.
Just a
Yeah,
cul-de-sac at the
So
end.
the end of Sixth West would.
It would be a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, we've got to just get access to that business. So whether it was a
Right.
hammerhead or a cul-de-sac or however that
Okay.
ended up.
I think that's great.
That's what we've submitted.
Any other questions, council? Not? Thank you.
Well, I just had a question on that. On that design concept, I mean, the road goes right through that business.
Mhm.
Have you talked to that landowner at all, or?
We haven't. It's one of those where until it's an opportunity for us, I didn't want to go talk to them. So we haven't talked to them yet.
In this high-level cost estimate, does that include some sort of eminent domain payment for that building?
It's a full buyout of the right-of-way, yeah. Yep. And there's an opportunity there that we could put them on the west side after we move the road. If you see that
Yep.
there's gonna be a lot on the west. So that would all be done in the, this is a 2% concept with a deep dive into what we really feel it would cost. And then if we got the funding, we'd move forward with next level design. And that first step would be to go talk to that property owner, either through a friendly negotiation or potentially an eminent domain. And we, of course, never seek for that. But that's what MAG asks of our municipalities who apply for the funding, that they're willing to take the steps needed to actually build the projects that they deem regionally significant, because MAG funding is only eligible for projects deemed regionally significant.
Anything else, council? Thank you both.
Thanks, guys.
It's very enlightening this evening.
Thank you.
With that, we'll now open our public hearing and invite anybody to come forward and address the council on ordinance 2024-2 on our transportation master plan.
Bob Scott. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. And thank you for getting us the packet ahead of time. That's really good to see, so we can peruse 457 pages overnight. That's always good. I agree, throwing a roundabout out there with a railroad running through it might be a bit perplexing to some of the Pleasant Grove folks, so high T is great. So that interactive map is really cool. I wish we had access to that as citizens and to play with, but that's okay. So just points to ponder. The ordinance only addresses Appendix E, but this is an update, I guess, the whole plan. And the whole plan actually updates 5 areas. So I don't know why the ordinance doesn't address 5 areas. It says, because the 23 update lists 5 areas updating. 600 West Center Street East is only one of the 5 areas. So if you're updating the whole plan, why don't you address all 5 of those instead of just one? And then it's ordinance 2024-2 says Appendix E. But if you look at the plan itself, Appendix E is actually referring to the appendix that updated the old master plan, not this one. Appendix F is what you're referring to, which is the master plan. This is Appendix E, Resolution Staff Report. Appendix F is, I think, what you're trying to say you're updating, which is 600 West and Center Street Study. But your resolution says Appendix E, which isn't what it is. It's really Appendix F. So you probably want to update that. And when they updated it, if you look at Appendix E, it refers to a resolution amending the Pleasant Grove City Transportation Master Plan as provided in Chapter 5, blah, blah, blah. And it is a resolution, but you're referring to updating it as an ordinance. So I don't know why this one's an ordinance, and last time they updated the plan, it was a resolution. So I don't know, I'm not smart enough to figure out when it's a resolution and when it's an ordinance. But that's just a comment and a point to ponder, I guess. And so the last part of this Appendix E is 1 million pages of costing. And in my printout, it's gobbledygook. Maybe in your printout, it makes sense. But it's like hundreds of pages of costing, which came across as garbage to me. Anyway, that's my comment. I agree with the conclusion that we don't need a roundabout with a railroad through it, that's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward?
Lon Lewis. I had a little bit of time to review this proposal, and I understand the traffic study was done in '09, so I assume this is the 25-year plan that is being modified. And in going through it, there's some items of general discussion, but hold the city to the feet to the fire of performing. And it's interesting that it's been portrayed as a storybook, but I think it's a storybook of fiction. There's enormous amount of information regarding funding of our roads. And I understand that this particular proposal, or the transportation plan, deals with the main roadways of the city, but it doesn't deal with any of the residential aspects. And the frustration of the cities is we've got roads in our residential neighborhoods that are deteriorating. They have failed, and nothing's addressing that, and it should be a part of a transportation plan. We leave the residential area to get to the arterial roads, to get to the freeways. So I don't know if we expand that to support the residents in getting the roads fixed or overlaid or rebuilt, but it needs to, the transportation plan needs to be more than the major grid system of the city. Just a comment regarding identifying the potential relocation of this business over here. I've been involved with eminent domain with UDOT on two circumstances, and it was never sprung on me of what their proposal was going to be. We were involved with the discussion. Our expectations were given to us years before the things happened. Couple items we were able to negotiate, and a couple items we weren't. But it wasn't a come knock on the door at the time it's ready to do the project that it was sprung on me. The city needs to be forthright of what the intentions are.
Director.
Just in response to some of the concern, I think that Schedule E may have been a Scrivener's error. I don't know about the F and the appendix, but that could be true, Bob. Thanks for bringing that up. As far as what I'm asking, it is to approve the update to the master plan, which admittedly is old. This was an update that is not a road maintenance plan. It's a transportation master plan. We don't address local roads in a transportation master plan because local roads don't carry heavy loads of traffic in terms of volume. This is not a road maintenance plan at all. This is a capacity and transportation plan for road widening, signals, intersections. The MAG funding for which we're applying for is 2026 money. That's the first it would be available. Whether or not we could even get the design done, but again, that we would not spring a property acquisition on any individual in Pleasant Grove. That would be something we'd go knock on the door and be years actually prior to actually building the project of saying, here's a plan, we have some funding, we'd like to work through this process and come to a mutual conclusion. That's our goal. So hopefully that addresses some of those concerns that have been addressed.
Thanks for that clarification, Director. Anyone else like to come forward?
Jacob Zantz, with regards to informing citizens about possible eminent domain. In this instance, with Center Street and 6th West, it probably would be, this person whose property may be taken wasn't informed about all the different options that were on the table. There was probably, what would you say, 8 options? I remember coming to that meeting. And I'm sure the property owners in that area would have liked to know the different options, and they probably would have voiced their concerns on all 8 options and may have pushed for a certain one. So to inform them after the city's decided what option they're going to go for, I think is wrong, and that you should probably tell them prior. So maybe an ordinance could be written up saying that the city has to inform any property owner whose property is being discussed with regards to eminent domain or taking. That would be a great ordinance, I think, for the city. That would require the city to inform every citizen whenever their property is being discussed for eminent domain. Thanks.
Anyone else? Thank you. We'll now bring it back up to the council for some further discussion. If there's none in the discussion, council, ask for a motion.
Well, I did have a question. With the effect of the proposed traffic signal, was the business owner given specific notice of this meeting, and was that required? Maybe Tina and Neil, you could both address that.
Sorry, I maybe don't fully understand. Can you?
Was like specific notice of this meeting where we were considering a plan that would require the city to commit to do whatever was necessary to fulfill the application? Was that required to be sent? I don't know if you would know this, Neil, Tina.
It was not required.
It was not, and it was not sent to the specific property owner?
No, so, I mean, transportation master plans, if you looked in a growing city's master plan, there would be lines all over property, all over the entire city. And so there's legal steps any city, any entity has to take in order to use eminent domain. And to be hung up that's where we're headed, I think, I mean, I would hope we'd come to a friendly conclusion on the road that we're talking about. So again, it's not eminent that it's eminent domain.
Yeah.
So you generally wouldn't, as an entity, go tell someone we're looking at that, because that's why you have closed sessions. Because then the property owners can hold you hostage as that goes against the nature of the negotiation.
And I agree with you on that as well. I'm just worried about what is the city committing to by submitting this proposal?
We are asking for it to be funded. That's all we're doing.
And are we committing to this particular plan, or is it able to be modified later after discussion with the private property owner?
Yeah, sure, we could modify the plan. We would take that modified plan back to MAG, and it would have to be approved, because they want to improve the transportation network to a certain level. And if our proposed plan that was different could achieve that, I don't suppose they would have any problem with that. The challenge that you have is that the engineering analysis shows that what we brought to MAG was the best transportation solution for that intersection. So while moving it or leaving it in place and adding a signal is an option, do nothing is an option. That's always an option. Moving it to where we have it proposed was the best option for the long-term plan for Pleasant Grove City and MAG regional area as a whole.
Thank you.
They don't fund projects that don't benefit the region as a whole.
Thank you for that, Neil. I just want to make sure I was clear on this, because I think I understood you. This transportation plan is different and distinct from the roads, like that was brought up by Mr. Lewis. This is distinct from a plan that deals with surface streets and
Yes.
residential roads. And we do have a separate plan that will deal with that,
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
this is not in the same, it's in the same folder maybe, but not in the same file, for sure.
Thanks, Director. Any other questions?
Mike, this question's for Tina. On the Scrivener's error, I do believe that we noticed it up for Appendix E, and I think we're considering
Yes.
Appendix F, so I just wanted your.
Just change your motion to Appendix F. It's just, it's not substantive, so to speak, so you can treat it as a Scrivener's error. Just make sure your motion says F, not E.
So we would move to amend the agenda to consider.
Just, when you make your motion to
Oh, yeah, I
approve
got it.
the ordinance, you just say Appendix F instead of E.
Okay, council, looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2024-2 regarding the Transportation Master Plan update with an appendix including the 600 West Center Street, and this is Appendix F.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson, a second by Councilmember Jensen. And this will be a roll call vote, and we will start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Now move on to our second public hearing this evening, 9B, a public hearing to consider for adoption ordinance 2024-3 for a zone change from RR Rural Residential Zone to the R1-20 Single Family Residential Zone on 3.32 acres of unplatted land located east of the 820 East, north of 1800 North, at the request of Neil Vallejo and Bryce Hardy. And Director Cardenas, enlighten us.
Mayor, Council, just to begin with, I want to make sure that we understand this. I'm Daniel Cardenas. I'm the Director for Community Development. I represent the city, not the applicant. As you mentioned, Mayor, the applicant is Bryce Hardy, and finally a name that I can say perfectly fine, Noel Vallejo. Right? So this is they're the applicants. There is their proposal, and what I want to present to you guys are the findings from staff. Okay. So what the applicant is proposing is a rezone. Okay. What they're proposing is to go from a rural residential to an R120. Okay. This is the property that the mayor mentioned. Is at the end of 1920. Between 2000 North and 1800 North. So we're talking about 3.32 acres of land, unplatted land, meaning that I don't have a final plat yet, okay? So they are trying to rezone, to change the rules and regulations of that area, so then they can go ahead and finalize their plat, okay? So let me see, yes, so the current zone is RR. RR is rural residential. RR requires for half-acre lots and 110 lot width or lot frontage, okay? So what they are proposing is to change that to go from the rural residential to the R120, okay? Now, rural residential is 21,780 square feet. R120, the R stands for residential, the 1 for single family, and the 20 meaning that they're proposing lots that are 20,000 square feet lots, meaning that there's a reduction of only 1,780. But that's what the applicant is proposing. This is something that staff does every time a rezone comes. The first thing we do is we look into the general plan. The general plan that we just barely work on, let's see if the general plan backs up this request or not. We check the vicinity We need to make sure that, that there's compatibility with the surrounding areas. That's very important. Actually, I have something right here that's gonna show what this proposal is. Is general plan compliant? The answer is yes. This property that the applicant is proposing is in the land use designation called single family, very low density. That land use designation supports rural residentials, R120s, and R115s. Okay, so our general plan says this is an area where an R120 can work perfectly fine. Compatibility with the vicinity, there is. If we actually take a look at this, I did something. I went ahead and measured the lots around just to see. And this is an aerial view of the property. This is the subject property. To go to an R120, meaning the lots are going to be 20,000. All these lots right here that are in red are 20,000 or less. So there is compatibility with the vicinity. The other thing that we check or that we make sure is that, of course, we take this to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission analyze it. We actually have a public hearing where the neighbors are welcome to come, and the Planning Commission takes a look at the general plan, takes a look at the vicinity, and they actually sent a recommendation. In this case, the recommendation was unanimous recommendation of approval based on the findings. And also, we always make sure they're keeping the same use. And by the same use, I mean rural residential is single family, R120 is also single family. So it marks all of the boxes that we create to take a look at a rezone, okay? That's what I have, Mayor and Council. I'm gonna speculate a little bit. When you have a property that is 3.32 and you go from an R1 RR to R120, the difference is probably of one lot, okay? So that's what I have, Mayor and Council. You guys have any questions for?
Any other questions for Daniel?
Can you put that screen back up that showed the other lots that were under,
Yes.
at
Yeah,
20 or
less than-
under,
yeah.
about the same size?
The compatibility, the vicinity, there you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
No, that's all.
I just had a question. Well, I was looking for a pointer, but maybe we didn't
I
get
have one
pointers
right
there.
here. You're gonna use
Are the other lots that aren't highlighted, it's okay, thanks, Daniel. Are those RR?
Yes, sir. Actually, so the designation for all these lots are RR, but if you can see, these are older homes, okay? That's why they're RR. The new homes that are right here, for example, they're R120. They usually, when it's a brand new home and they try
Yeah.
to do a rezone or something like that, yeah.
Okay, great.
But this is just to prove compatibility. But the actual zone is, as we can see right here, okay? So we have R120 right here, it's a new subdivision. This is a new subdivision, that's why it's also R120. Same what we have right here.
And the master plan calls for an R120 or RR,
Even R115, yes,
okay? Or even down to R15?
correct.
115, okay, great, thank you.
Councilman Rogers, you have anything else?
I don't, thank you, Mayor.
I guess we're through with you, Daniel. I just, go ahead.
We have the applicant right here if you guys have questions.
Okay. I just want to, before I open up the public hearing, I just want to clarify one thing. This is just a zone change. This isn't about a subdivision plat or anything else. It's just changing the zone this evening. So anyway, that will come later, another date. This is just the first thing so we can get a new site plan done. So anyway, with that, I'll open up our public hearing and invite anybody to come forward and address the council. I see no one approaching the podium, so we'll now bring it back up to the council. If any more discussion between the council members and staff, or ask for a motion on ordinance 2024-3.
Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of ordinance 2024-3 for a zone change from RR rural residential zone to the R120 single-family residential zone on 3.32 acres of unplatted land located east of 820 West and north of 1800 North at the request of, now I'm afraid to say his name, Daniel, Noel Villeo and Bryce Hardy.
We have a motion from Councilmember Jensen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Anderson. And we will start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Now move to our final public hearing for this evening. 9C, a public hearing considered for adoption ordinance 2024-4 for a zone change from RR rural residential zone to R1-10 single-family residential zone on approximately 4.5 acres of unplatted land located approximately at 131 West, 1800 North, at the request of the Castlewood Development. Daniel.
Mayor, Council, what we have in front of us is another rezone. There we go. Another rezone proposal from Castlewood Development. In this case, what they're trying to do is to change the zone to from a rural residential half-acre lot, 21,780 square feet, to an R110. Okay, so this is the proposal from the applicant. We're talking about a property that is about 4.5 acres. A little bit of the history of this land. This is also unplatted. Right now, this 4.5 is part of the church that is located right there on 1800 North. This is easy for us to locate ourselves because this is our park, and just right behind our park and next to the church, we're talking about the subject property. Okay, so the general plan in this case, I'm gonna show you the map, and you guys have it in your package, but I'm gonna look at into this. Now, we're not talking about single family very low density. We're into a different land use designation. We're into the single family low density. If you guys remember when we work on our general plan, we try to go in lines of trying to go from higher density, which is our downtown. As we go north, we're reducing the density. In this case, we're going down, so we're adding or increasing the density. In this case, the single family low density contemplates R115, R112, and R110. Regardless of the situation, that a lot of the lots in this single family low density area are R18, but R18 is not contemplated in our general plan. So let me go back to our map, or zoning map. If we take a look at this, it's very common for unplatted land that belongs to a, actually I'm gonna show you this that I have right here. But it's very common for unplatted land that belongs to in a school or in church or in a park to be rural residential in the middle of R18. All of this is R18, meaning that if someone wants to develop some land right here, they can go to 8,000 square feet lots, as how it's zoned right now, okay? So we have R18 right here. We have R110 next to the property. This yellow one is R110. So the majority of the residents or the lots that we have in this vicinity are either R18 or R110, okay? So in this case, as I was looking at the size and the lots that we have right here, these lots, even though they're in the R1A zone, they're about 10,000 square feet lots, okay? So what the applicant is proposing is to match what we have around here and go to the 10,000 square feet lots as well. The general plan, again, I'm gonna go back to our presentation and just wanna make sure that I'm saying that clear. The general plan designation for single family low density includes R115, R112, and it does include R110 as well, okay? There's compatibility with the vicinity, as we can see that on one side we have R18, and then the other side we have R110. In that property, approximately, we can put about, in an R110, about 12 to 13 lots, something around there. I have an application for a plat. Staff is reviewing it currently, so I have the engineers and the planners taking a look at it. but it cannot go forward without changing the zone of this property. This item also went to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission took a look at it, analyzed it, and they forwarded a unanimous recommendation of approval as well. As we can see, they're single family, but the lots are way smaller in this case, okay? That's what the applicant proposes, Mayor and Council.
Any questions for the director? Looks like not, so thank you.
Okay.
And we're going to have our city administrator, since this particular land has a little history with the city here.
Still a little bitter.
And little bad feelings been, so Scott, would you kind of fill us in here so some of the people that are here can?
Yeah, I think our current council, probably with the exception of Councilmember Rogers, was involved when this property initially became available. We did approach the church and asked for them to donate the property to the city so that we could expand Discovery Park. We thought that would be a very nice compatible use. That request was denied.
I think that was a hell no.
Well,
Kind of just, okay.
not exactly
All
the
right.
church's
Okay,
exact
okay.
words, Mayor.
That's what I heard.
But it was, yeah, they told us that was, they were not interested in that. We came back with an offer that I feel, and I'm not going to disclose numbers here in this meeting, but we came back with what I thought was a very fair offer to try to purchase the property. Again, they told us no. And they asked us one last time, you know, what was our highest and best. And so we did come up with an offer that was even more than our second offer. And we were told no at that time too. Okay, it's my opinion. What the church was looking for was developer prices for the property. They were not looking for a public use for this property. It's hard for the city to pay developer prices for that and then just turn around and use it as a soccer field. That's a lot of money for a soccer field. So I feel like the city did its due diligence to try to obtain this property for public use. And I think from the church's perspective, that was not what they were looking for. So that's
thank
just
you.
a statement for council as a reminder for the general public for them to know that we did make an attempt to obtain this.
Thanks, Scott. That was said very politically correct. I would have said it much different.
Wait,
Okay,
wasn't that Fugal land that was donated to the
Yes.
church?
no, not that.
Oh, it wasn't Fugal
No,
land?
that wasn't.
But it was-
That
but it
that
was-
piece wasn't.
Okay.
But it was citizen donated to the church in the first place.
I think that was the Wadley family years ago.
That
That donated
donated,
that
that
to
donated
the-
it to the
to the
church.
To the church for the Manila Ward
Farm.
Oh.
Steak farm.
Yeah, it wasn't a steak.
Oh, wasn't a
the
steak, it was
Ward
a
farm.
ward farm?
Yeah. And then the church built a chapel there, and so that's why the property's there. So that gives you the history of where that came from, but it was a really difficult piece. There was several people says the only way you could plant corn on it was with a shotgun. So anyway, that's pretty hard manila clay right there. So anyway, with that, we'll open our public hearing and invite anybody to come forward and address the council on this zone change on ordinance number 2024-4.
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thank you for allowing me to say a few words. I live next to this property, and as a neighborhood group, we desperately tried to get the church to allow the city to buy it, and we were so disappointed when that didn't happen. I just want to say I appreciate the city's efforts in trying to provide open space and park area for our citizens. It is very important to all of us. And of course, as neighbors that all built here at the same time about 30 years ago, our hope and dream was that it would always be open to us. But we have resigned now that we have no other choice but to welcome our new neighbors, and we will not have pitchforks there as they're digging the ground, but we will be welcoming to those neighbors. But I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for your efforts.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Sorry, we
that.
need a name for the record. Terry Taylor.
Anyone else like come forward? Daniel?
So during our planning commission, I had some residents' concerns about the type of lots that were gonna be right there, and I tried to explain that this is just the changing on the size. However, I do have an application for a plat, and some neighbors asked me to look at the plat, and I was able to send it to them. They can come to my office, or I can send me an email, and I'll gladly share what we have so they can see the other application. Actually, that one's coming to Planning Commission on Thursday for preliminary approval, but I have it and it's available for the neighbors to take a look at that plat if they wish to look at it. Okay?
All right, thank you, Daniel. With that, if there are any other questions or debate amongst the council members, I not ask for a motion on ordinance number 2024-4.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-4 for a zone change from rural residential zone to an R110 single-family residential zone on approximately 4.5 acres of unplatted land located approximately 131 west, 1800 north at the request of Castlewood Development.
We have a
Second.
motion from Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember Lamone. And let's start out with Councilmember Williams this time.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. That concludes all our public hearings for this evening. And we'll now move on to our action items. Number 10A, to consider for adoption Resolution 2024-07, authorizing the mayor to declare a 2014 Ford F-450 wheeled coach ambulance as surplus and direct that it be disposed of according to the city's policy in disposing of surplus property. And we'll turn the time over to Chief Ingerman.
Mayor, Council, this is just one of our ambulances. We put our new ambulance in service, and this is just the one that we want to surplus. Get rid of it and kind of cycle it through. So it served us well for a while, and it's time to get rid of it and use a new one.
So our new one's in?
It's in service, yeah.
In service now?
In service, ready to go. The guys didn't waste much time getting that back together once they got it back there. They got on it and put it together real quick, and they were excited, so, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thanks.
That need a motion for resolution number 2024-07.
I make the motion that we approve resolution 2024-07, authorizing the mayor to declare a 2014 Ford F-450 wheeled coach ambulance as surplus and direct that it be disposed of according to the city's policy.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lamone, a second by Councilmember Jensen, and we will start out with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. Now move on to 10B, to consider for adoption Resolution 2024-08, authorizing the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT, providing for development and preservation access points on a proposed frontage road in the area of I-15 and other related matters. And we'll turn time over to our general counsel.
Mayor, if Kyler will put up the map, I'd like to do the discussion or the presentation part for 10B and C together. They're related, interrelated. As you know, down by the St. John development, UDOT is planning in the future to construct a frontage road along the west side of that large parcel that's in purple. It's to alleviate the traffic concerns that we have with our current freeway interchange. As part of developing that frontage road, They worked in conjunction with the St. John Properties. They had to purchase some right-of-way from them in order to get the amount of property they needed to make it wide enough. St. John Properties wanted to make sure that they preserved access onto that frontage road for their development. UDOT has a requirement that they will not allow frontage onto that type of a roadway from a private entity. It needed to be a public right-of-way. So the first agreement is between us and UDOT, agreeing to accept those two little small pieces that are highlighted in green at the north and south of the parcel as public right-of-way from the developer in order to preserve access into the development. The second agreement is with the developer themselves, St. John Properties. They are agreeing to maintain those public right-of-ways in perpetuity. Basically, we will not be incurring any maintenance or upkeep costs for accepting those two roadways. It's about 30 feet wide, I believe, and you can see they're fairly small, but it is to comply with UDOT requirements.
Any questions?
I love the fact that there's a gateway into that property. And if we have to do it for 30 feet, let's do it for 30 feet. So that's awesome. Yeah. So one question that maybe the mayor and I had, are we reading this right, that this is, let's see, this is an off-ramp? Let's see if I can, where's my pointer? 1300. Did it just die? There it is. Yeah, right there.
So that is my understanding, that
Right
what
there,
they're
that's
going
an
to
off-ramp
do.
and an on-ramp?
Mhm. And Director Winterton probably is more familiar, but my understanding is that's
Neil's-
going to be the off-ramp.
He's doing the head shake.
He's doing the
Yeah.
head shake.
So you can just get off on that one, and the other one that we currently have will be just getting on.
Yeah, so the question was, is you can come off here and go straight, or you can turn and go to these other businesses, which will alleviate this congestion. Right now, that's a mess, and so, great work, St. John's Properties. Great work.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, perfect. That's awesome.
Can you imagine the amount of work that went into 30 feet? I know.
Mr. Beaumont back there is smiling
Yeah.
as well, so.
Any other questions? Not? Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's go for a motion on Resolution 2024-08.
Mayor, I'd love to make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2024-08, authorizing the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement with the Utah Department of Transportation, as read by you.
We have a motion from Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Jensen. And we will start out with Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
And Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We'll now move on and for a motion to consider adoption Resolution 2024-09, authorizing the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement with the LC Reserve One LLC, Valley Grove Exchange One LLC, Valley Grove Exchange Two LLC, providing for the development and preservation of access points on a proposed frontage road in the area of 115 and other related matters as our general counsel has previous discussed to us.
So is the first one just the authorization to sign the cooperative agreement, and the second one is to,
The first one is the cooperative agreement with UDOT itself
Okay.
to agree to accept those two parcels and make them right of way and preserve that access. The second one is with St. John Properties itself regarding the access and maintenance of the access.
got it. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'll make a motion on that one if you're ready for.
We're
that.
ready for a motion unless there's other questions from the council. Nope.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-09, authorizing the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement with LC Reserve One LLC, Valley Grove Exchange One LLC, Valley Grove Exchange Two LLC, providing for development and preservation of access points to the proposed frontage road in the area of I-15 and other related matters.
Thank you. We have a motion from Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Lamone. And we will be a roll call again. We'll start with Councilmember Williams. this
Yes.
time. Councilmember Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. That concludes all our action items ready for vote this evening. And we do not have any continued items from our work discussion earlier that needed for review, unless you have anything, Scott?
Nothing more, Mayor.
Okay. And we've discussed our, reviewed our February 21st City Council meeting, possible agenda, and now I turn it to the council. If, and we'll start down here with Councilmember Rogers. Councilmember Rogers, do you have anything you'd like to bring up to us tonight, or anything about this meeting you'd like to clarify?
I just, yeah, there are some things I want to bring up. One, it relates back to the referendum that was, I think, initiated by certain citizens, and we were able to review our legal opinion that was released by our representative, our general counsel for the city. And I would just say, there's a couple things here that I want to just mention. One is that as a city council, I think it's important that we recognize the powers that we do have and the powers that we don't have. And as a council member, I rely on our city staff and our city employees to provide us with the best information possible. And as I've got to know them, I'm really glad that we have such great people working for us. And two, I've got to know some of them a little bit more personally, and I think that they're great people who love the city. But there are certain things that I think that the city council has to be wary of. One of those is that we cannot be afraid of the voice of our citizens. And when our citizens express certain concerns to us, I think that may highlight something that warrants looking into. I had a chance to review Tina's letter regarding the legal opinion of the city on the resolution. And I appreciate Mr. Zant coming and providing us additional information here. And I think it warrants a look at it. And if I know Tina and how competent she is, I'm sure she's looked at this and she reviewed it. And I know that she is willing to review this information and consider it. And that's where I think it starts. As a city council, we don't have necessarily the power, nor the motion, nor the resolution in front of us to consider anything related to the referendum. But I do just want to express that as a council member, I'm not afraid of the voice of the people. In fact, I solicit it, and I'm grateful that you're willing to come and express it. And there are certain ways you can do that through process, and if you feel it necessary, then I'm grateful that we have citizens in our city who are willing to do that. And that's all I wanted to say tonight. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Williams.
No, I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilmember Lamone. Councilmember Anderson.
Nope.
And Councilmember Jensen.
Thursday.
Thursday, in your blue suede shoes.
Okay.
Wait, is that mandatory?
Yes. All right, council, I don't have anything more for you. I appreciate you being with you this evening, and so I'm looking for a motion for adjourn.
So moved.
I have a motion from Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second